that is it.
Wow. All right.
KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. The John and Ken Show. John Cobelt and Ken Champeau. 407 here. The BBC is coming to film us on Wednesday because they're doing a documentary on America's love affair with the SUV, and they loved our whole SUV parade up to Sacramento last July and our broadcast we did. If you are part of things, or if you have very strong opinions on that, you could be part of the BBC documentary. You have to come to KFI.
True.
Here.
You don't have to be at the parade. You could just have strong opinions and come by and be on the BBC.
They're trying to understand America. The socialists,
they just want to film some yahoos.
The socialists over in at the BBC want to figure out why we love our big cars. So you want to come to KFI around 2:30 on Wednesday. Email us to at johnandkenshow.com and give us your phone number, and we'll have somebody in contact with you if you would like to speak about it. And also, if you have any video of that day back in July when we did our broadcast in front of the governor's mansion, any video you'd like to donate, the BBC might be able to use it.
Very good.
johnandkenshow.com.
All right. Well, we actually go into this story from a few of you listeners out there because it's basically a story that has gotten a lot of talk going in the South Bay here in Los Angeles County. December 7th is coming pretty fast, and a group that wanted to raise money for the Fort MacArthur Military Museum in San Pedro had decided what they were going to do on this December 7th is have a showing, a special anniversary showing of the movie Tora, Tora, Tora. That movie was made back in 1970 and actually was a joint American and Japanese production, and many think it was an accurate depiction of the events leading up to Pearl Harbor. What they had done is they had booked a theater in San Pedro.
The Warner Grand Theater. It's an historic theater down there.
And then they were told a few things, that the theater was already booked, that there were problems with security, blah, blah, blah. By the way, they also wanted to have ushers dressed up in clothing from the era, and they wanted to have 1940s vintage cars. And
yeah. Well, the ushers were going
a searchlight on hand. They were going to make a bit of an event out of it.
Well, the ushers were going to dress up in World War II military uniforms.
Right.
Maybe that's what was offensive to... Well, anyway...
One of those who has spoken out against the event and was against it from the beginning is Los Angeles City Councilwoman Janice Hahn. She said the event would be insensitive to the Japanese-American community. Quote, I wanted to be very sensitive to the Japanese-American community. December 7 is a tough day, especially for the second and third generations of Japanese-Americans. Why do we want to do something that makes it more difficult?
All right, now let's analyze that sentence. Why would it be especially tough for the second and third generation? They're the ones who didn't live through it.
I guess they're alive.
It would be especially...
People who are dead are...
No, it would be especially tough for the first generation who lived through it and maybe went through the internment camps. But the second and third generations have no memory of it. They weren't alive then. They have no conscious memory of the emotions and of the impact. Secondly, the damn film was made in part by the Japanese.
Hahn was asked to intervene on the museum's behalf to get the film shown on December 7th, but then she started speaking with, as it says here, Japanese-American friends, including, and we talked about this guy a few months back, State Assemblyman George Nakano from Torrance. And she agreed, finally, that it would be insensitive.
You know something? The quickest way to get a city council person or any politician involved is when there is an affront to political correctness. Then they have all the time on their hands.
Because politicians are about not offending anybody. Not one single person for one single group.
When I call
about anything.
When I call up to complain about them botching up a sewer project and blocking my way to work every day, you just get the runaround from people. Maybe I should call in and
but
say...
But you don't represent a distinct core block of voters, which you can describe by ethnicity.
Right, I know. I'm just another loud white guy, and no problem offending them. Maybe I should call up and say, I'm Japanese, or I'm Hispanic, or I'm African-American, and all my friends seem to be blocked by this detour. Can you do anything? Seems this detour is racist. Can you change things?
And then she made another weird quote. This is Janice Hahn, who chose, this is the mayor's sister, by the way.
Yeah.
Chose not to come on the program. We couldn't get her.
Dud family.
It wasn't about the movie, she said. I was told that they were going to have 1940s swing dancing and bring in old cars. It's just not really a cause for celebration.
Now, wait a second. How would dancing in cars offend the Japanese Americans? How would that happen?
I have no idea.
This is so stupid. Janice Hahn is...
And by the way, it was Jim Hahn Americans who were butchered at Pearl Harbor, so if anybody would be sensitive to celebrating the date, it would be those people, not the Japanese.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. We were attacked that day. Our people died, not the Japanese. It was Americans who died. What kind of a historical illiterate is Janice Hahn anyway? What? She's a bigger dope than her dud brother, Mayor.
people
it's the
here...
stupidest thing. Americans died. No Japanese died. Now, if you had some sort of celebration on the day that we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima or Nagasaki, then you might be able to talk a little.
Yeah,
but this was the
August.
day that they attacked us. But I bet you Janice Hahn doesn't even know that. I bet you she's confusing this with the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. I bet you that's what it is. And she doesn't realize, no, this was the beginning of the war when they hit us, not the end of the war when we hit them. I bet you she doesn't even know which was which.
And actually, there were complaints when the movie came out that it was too sensitive to the Japanese point of view, the movie Tora, Tora, Tora.
Probably was.
And she goes on again, people here lost their property. They lost their families right here in San Pedro. My father was a veteran of the war. I was raised to be very supportive of veterans. I just wanted to be very sensitive to the Japanese-American.
Don't want to be sensitive to the World War II veterans, though, who had to die because of what the Japanese did, right? You don't want to be sensitive to their memory. I mean, it's to raise money for a military museum. You don't want to be...
Now they're looking for a new theater. We have a volunteer who's been working on the project with the Fort MacArthur Museum Association, Bob Mesa.
Bob, welcome to the John and Ken Show.
Hi there.
So, originally you booked the theater and everything was cool, right?
Everything seemed to be going okay. I talked to one of their representatives, and they said, oh, that's a great idea. It's the beginning of the war. We might even do a series and do a few of these shows related to the war. They came back and said they couldn't get a print of Tora, Tora, Tora. Only a 16-millimeter existed, and, 16-millimeter on a big screen wouldn't be very good.
So the theater came back and said, oh, we can't find a print.
Right. They said, choose another movie like maybe Bridge Over the River Kwai or something.
But you found a print.
I found a print.
And you told them.
I told them I got a print, and they said, well... it's a rare print, isn't it? Yeah, well, we don't really trust our equipment. We don't want to run that print. We don't want to damage it. And I said, fine, I'll go through your equipment. I'm an engineer. I'll make sure it's running fine. And
you agreed to get insurance, too, for the print.
Oh, yeah. I was taking full... I signed it out in my name. In fact, it's in my name right now.
So are you beginning to get suspicious that there might be other factors at work? I mean, at what point... Yeah.
That's why we contacted the councilwoman. Hey, what's going on here?
Oh, so you went right to Janice Hahn.
Went right to Janice Hahn. I, kept getting BS from these people. And
did she know? Did she know what was going on already?
No. And you were surprised to hear it. And in fact, the response I heard was she was amazed. Like, what's going on? This is ridiculous.
When did she switch sides, though? Because you tried to get her to help you, and then suddenly she became very sensitive.
After she talked to George.
Assemblyman George Nakano from Torrance.
He was one of the doofuses who voted for the SUV bill, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, they all
Yeah,
all
right.
did.
Yeah,
Democrats.
right. Yeah, he was
He's just got reelected, so...
Yeah, he's another idiot.
So what did she say to you then after she spoke to George? How did she put it?
I never really talked to her directly. Everything was secondhand. It just came back that we talked to members of the Japanese community and they'd be offended. Some dignitary within the Japanese community. It took us a while to find out who this was.
Who was it? Because what I'm reading the story here is that a Japanese-American newspaper here in L.A. supported the screening.
Yes.
It's a G-rated movie. It was co-produced by American and Japanese directors, and it attempted to tell the story of the bombing from both sides in a documentary fashion.
That's correct.
Okay, that all seems to be true. Then who is the person who was offended?
It must be George.
You think it's George? You really do, huh?
Well, it came back that, in fact, it was Mike Molina is the one that told me he contacted George.
So there's no Japanese-American association that's involved in this protest?
In fact, the members of the museum contacted the Japanese-American Museum. I think that's what it's called, National Museum, and they're all for it. I mean, they weren't going to come out and support this particular showing because it really doesn't involve them.
The Japanese-American Museum didn't have any objection?
No, but they wanted to participate.
So it's one guy? It's this dope George Nakano, the assemblyman.
You got me.
Now, apparently, Hahn's comments, as we read further into them, it wasn't about the movie. It was about this idea of a celebration with the cars and dancing.
Yeah, where in the heck did that come from?
I don't know. It's a very strange comment. She just feels like you'd be rubbing it in their faces, I guess, if you make a celebration out of it.
It's no celebration. It's
a celebration of us being attacked. This was the worst thing that happened up until 9/11.
And she has to remember that a lot of Japanese died in that attack, too.
Yeah. Well, do you think she understands that that's Pearl Harbor Day, or do you think she's thinking...
American, I don't think she knows her history.
Because she's acting as if we're celebrating the atomic bomb being dropped.
Exactly. This was going to be an educational event as well. I mean, we just got through restoring a couple of World War II searchlights. We have Jeeps. We were going to set an atmosphere outside the theater.
Well, it's a fundraiser. You got to put on a show to raise money.
And for children to come out and see it and get the feel of it.
Yeah. Perfect. You're right. The feel of the era.
Exactly, with a great grand old theater.
That's
Oh,
right.
that sounds. I tried. It's a 1930s theater, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So now what are you going to do?
Well, we're looking for another theater. We're looking around Santa Monica area. There aren't very many single screens left in the...
Oh, you want to talk about where people get offended? Try Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, yeah. Good luck going there.
They get offended, I mean, over anything.
I mean, that's the only place there are single-screen theaters.
They're offended by ATM fees.
I mean, then some of the old theaters in Westwood, aren't they single screens? Or are they
Yeah, the Mann theaters in Westwood are big single-screen theaters.
But they're all booked up and they show first runs. I'll tell you this. I called the manager of the Alex Theater in Glendale. They showed this print in 2000, in the year 2000, on December 7th, which happened to be a Tuesday. No, it was a Thursday.
Yeah.
They had over 500 people attend.
Yeah, and George Nakano didn't know, I guess.
See, this is one of the
guess
things.
not.
We're $25 billion in debt, and George Nakano is trying to stop
a Pearl Harbor movie.
A Pearl Harbor movie from being shown. I mean, like, he doesn't have enough to do. And then Janice Hahn, who just has got to be brain dead if she went along with this thing, because everything she says makes no sense. Nobody's going to be offended by cars. Nobody's going to be offended if the ushers are wearing military uniforms. And it's not going to be offensive to Japanese Americans because she talks about second and third generation Japanese Americans. They weren't alive in 1941. And we were the ones attacked anyway.
That's right. I have Japanese friends who want to bring their children to this. Their parents were in internment camps. I mean, this attack affected them, but they're not offended by it. I mean, they're American.
I mean, so few people know the history of anything that this is a chance to enlighten, a few hundred people at least, as to what events led up to the Pearl Harbor attack. I mean,
exactly. And can you imagine a few years from now, we recommemorating the 9/11 event? Are we not going to have it because it might offend Muslims?
So if you
you know what? A day will happen 60 years from now. You got to have enough time to
right.
Yeah, the day will happen. Somebody will eventually do a movie on 9/11, and then they'll want to show it to commemorate 60 years from now, and then there's going to be some Muslim group complaining.
You bet.
That's the way it is.
We got to stop it now.
Well, if you went back to Hahn and you said we're Nakano, that I guess we'll take out the cars and the fancy searchlights. Can we still show the movie? You think they still would object?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
In fact, they said they could show it on any other day except we could show it. Now they're saying we could show it next year.
That's just the cover. The complaining when you're complaining.
That quote. Next year we're okay.
If you're complaining about vintage cars, it means you're out of arguments. It means it's just this political correctness because of this idiot George Nakano.
We asked him if we could do it the day before.
Why didn't you
Friday, the 6th, and we haven't heard back from him.
Why didn't you try to talk to Nakano yourself?
Oh. Because Janice Hahn is the one that says, as far as I know, is the bottom line on this.
Well, I don't
but
understand.
Nakano, I guess, is Japanese American, right?
I did write him. I did write him and say, hey, what are you doing? You're putting races against each other on this kind of deal.
Now the Warner Grand Theater is privately owned, right?
It's owned by the city.
It's owned by the city.
There you go.
So that gave Janice Hahn the power to stop this.
There was nothing booked in that all year, and for that day. You know what's going in there now?
What?
Mayor Hahn's Christmas party or holiday party.
Oh,
yeah, I
look
saw
at
that. Right, Mayor Hahn's holiday party.
She calls up her dud brother and say, hey, would you help me out here?
Oh, take the theater.
Nakano's really pissed. He's all angry about this World War II movie being shown. We got to book something December 7th in that theater so we can block the museum
that happened
fundraiser.
4 days ago.
Yeah.
Hahn said the program would be fine on any other night but December 7th.
So she got her dud brother to book his Christmas party. That's really scummy. What a couple of idiots.
Now, it had been planned to be down the street at the Maritime Museum up to that point. It was already scheduled to be there, down the street. We first thought that maybe...
Wait, the Christmas party?
Pardon me?
The Christmas party?
That's correct.
They moved the Christmas party. It was already booked, and they moved it to block your movie.
That's correct.
Oh, jeez.
We thought that they didn't want us to have this commemoration with our searchlights and everything because it would detract from his Christmas party up down the street from this Grand Theater.
Well, it's not going to detract anything. People who want to go to the Christmas party are going to go. They're not going to be...
Exactly.
They're going to leave the party to go see a war movie unless they want to see the war movie. I mean, it's...
You're dealing with knuckleheads. What can I say?
Yeah, you are. That is a genetically deficient family.
See, now the difficulty you have is you're looking for December 7th, which is coming up fast. You're looking for sort of a vintage movie theater, and you don't want to stray too far from San Pedro where your base of people are.
That's right.
So that does limit your options.
Very limited.
All right, why don't you hang on the line, Bob, all right?
Sure.
We'll continue this. Bob Mays.
Maybe we can find somebody who can help him out.
And maybe somebody can help him out because Janice Hahn has no business stopping a World War II movie. In fact, you know what? I think there's got to be a counter-protest, except the World War II generation is so old they can barely sit up now. But, I mean, there ought to be, the American Legion and the VFW and all these other groups ought to be screaming and yelling. The only way to fight political correctness is to get in their face just as loudly as the other side does. You got to call Janice Hahn up. You got to call this absolute idiot, George Nakano, up.
No,
and you've
right.
got to get in their face.
With a major budget deficit, this guy shouldn't be wringing his hands over the showing of a Tora on December 7th.
You talk about a lack of patriotism. I mean, it's a.
It would be okay if everyone sat there glum and nobody was having a good time.
Is there any Japanese American out there offended? Anybody? No, I doubt it. It's a movie made by American and Japanese directors.
And as he said, the idea of the cars and the searchlights and the ushers dressed up was to give younger people a sense of the history.
Sure.
It's not about celebrating the event.
Well, why would you celebrate an event where our people died? We got whacked that day. How would you celebrate that exactly? Oh, Janice Hahn is just brain dead. All right.
We'll talk more about this. Your calls from Orange County and everywhere, 800-5201-KFI. From L.A. County, 5201-KFI.
John and Ken Show, KFI, AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.
KFI.
The John and Ken Show, John Cobell and Ken Shampoo, 433 at KFI. Well, there's a museum, the Fort MacArthur Military Museum in San Pedro. They wanted to hold a fundraiser on December 7th, which is the 61st anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack, and they were going to show Tora, Tora, Tora at the Warner Grand Theater, which the city owns.
A 1930s era movie theater in downtown San Pedro. Right, the city owns it, so they had to eventually go through, as you might guess, political channels. And the event cannot go at that theater.
No, apparently...
City Councilwoman Janice Hahn apparently had discussions with, it looks like, Assemblyman George Nakano, and they thought it would be insensitive to the Japanese-American community to hold the movie showing on that date. Apparently, they were going to have ushers dressed up in military uniforms and vintage cars, because it is a fundraiser. Make a little event out of it.
Now, follow this. Nakano, who's an assemblyman and has no business butting his nose into this, wants this stopped because he's offended. So Janice Hahn calls her brother, the dud mayor, Jim Hahn.
One-term Jim decides to move his Christmas party from another museum down the block into the Warner Grand Theater in order to block the showing of Tora, Tora, Tora. So the theater manager can now say, it's already booked. We can't allow you to.
Now
At first they tried to tell, and we have a guest on who will describe it in a second, but that
they didn't have a print.
There's no print of the theater of the movie, but he did get one.
Bob Meza, our guest here, is a volunteer with the museum. He found the print, and then it was like, well, we don't know if it'll work with our equipment. Well, Bob said, okay, I'll take care of that. Well, we don't have insurance. It's okay, I got insurance. And then
eventually it's George Nakano doesn't like it.
Now, this film, and this has to be stressed, was made by the American and Japanese. Okay, they had an American director, a Japanese director. It is considered one of the most accurate depictions of events leading up to the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which, by the way, the Japanese did to us. So no one is celebrating an attack where we lost 2,000 American lives.
Yeah, Hahn's objection seems to be you can't have a celebratory air about this.
Janice Hahn apparently doesn't even know her history. If we were celebrating the bombing of Hiroshima, I would understand the objection. But what we're doing is we're educating hundreds of people about the Japanese attack on us. That began World War II, which is the single most defining moment of the entire century for America, was World War II. The single most defining moment maybe for the entire world was America's involvement in World War II. So she apparently, I would be surprised, I bet you she went to, did she go to Los Angeles Public Schools? Maybe she never learned that the start of the war was at Pearl Harbor and the end of it was the bombing at Hiroshima. Maybe she and her dud brother never passed history. And I still am looking for the group, the Japanese group that is against this film, because apparently Bob Meza, whatever Japanese groups he contacted, they were not opposed to this film. Maybe it's just George Nakano, but remember, Nakano voted for the SUV bill, so he's not too bright a guy. All right, Bob, I want to take some calls here. We got one guy, Eric in Los Angeles. You're on the John and Ken Show. Go ahead.
I just want to give a different perspective here, being Japanese-American. I don't think, and I can't speak for other people, but I'm not sure if it's people being offended by it. I think it's because of what the Japanese Americans went through. People are afraid, I think, of the hate that comes out of it. And I'm not saying
what hate? This movie's on television all the time.
No, I understand.
It's a kind of a pseudo documentary of.
I understand.
Besides, it's history.
Right, and I agree. Historically, it should be put out there. I'm just adding what the perspective.
How old are you?
I'm 40.
40. So you were born 20 years after this happened. You don't.
But my parents were in the internment camps, and then growing up.
But this is not a movie about internment camps. This is a movie about the Japanese attacking us.
I understand, but on December 7th every year growing up, you had to go through this thing called Slap the Jap Day, and everybody would come up and try to.
Slap the Jap Day?
Well, insensitive school children.
Well,
what are you going to do?
This is what I mean.
What does that have to do with this?
It has nothing to do with this.
Well, but this is a fundraiser where only those who are supportive of it will attend, and those who are sensitive won't be there to be pained, you see.
I understand. And I'm not saying... I agree that, there should be more education on the war. And I think there could be some... I think they might be afraid of how it might be interpreted by people or something.
It's history. You see, this is what... Eric, thanks for the call. This is the problem now. You can't even teach history or show a movie that's historical because whatever side was bad or the enemy at the time will now feel offended. That's right. So now history has to be papered over. There was no bad guy. There was no attack by anybody. Have you run into any of this, Bob? I mean, just personally talking to people?
No. When they were going to release Pearl Harbor, the movie that Disney made, the same fears were that people are going to hate Japanese.
I remember that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they were all.
And the movie stunk too, so that was the other problem. But this was this is just a fundraiser, and it's so localized. I don't see why they had to take this to this level to deny you guys the theater.
Nobody would have noticed this.
Right. If you wanted to come, fine. If you did want to come, that's fine too.
Did anybody call any of your groups, your museum association, and say that they would have been offended by this?
Not that I'm aware of. Not at all.
So you've never had a conversation with anyone who's actually offended?
No, not at all.
You know what? I bet you Nakano, the assemblyman, is the only one offended.
That could very well be. She apparently based her decision on his decision.
Well, what's the payoff here? What's the relationship here between Han and Nakano?
Well, do you know where the Hans are now?
What's that?
Do you know where the Hans are?
No, where are they?
Japan.
They're in Japan now.
They're in Japan now on a goodwill tour to promote L.A. as a tourist destination.
So Mayor Han is in Japan?
Yeah, the mayor and Janice and a few others.
So the timing here.
They're on a junket, in other words. They're on a free vacation.
So if they were over there and some Japanese newspaper got a hold of this story, they might be embarrassed by it, maybe. If you guys had put the show on.
Oh, Jesus. You know why? Who's paying for this exactly? Is this a taxpayer-paid junket?
Who knows? George, there's a lot of stuff I looked up on the internet about George, and he gets a lot of support from Japanese industry.
Did he go on this trip, too?
I don't think so, but
what is Japanese industry? But, I mean, it's an old movie. It's a 30-year-old movie that's on TV all the time. I mean, there's nothing controversial about it.
Protecting their supporters is what they're doing.
And the Japanese, in part, produced it.
I think he does so much hand-wringing that any possible slight that they may feel he has to block.
I tell you, the veterans, you know what, veterans, sons and daughters of veterans, they should be offended now. They should be offended, and they should just be bombarding Nakano's office and Han's office with complaints here.
Well, we're gonna make an appearance at Mr. Han's holiday party.
Oh, you are?
Oh, we are.
Oh, I think that's a good idea.
But that's the night you're going to do this event, I thought.
Pardon me?
That's the same night of your event.
It is, but our event will be later. You figure they're going to have a dinner. We'll probably be there about 5 o'clock.
You'll have time to protest.
Wish them Merry Christmas, and then we'll go on our way.
Oh, that's really cheap. Stephanie in Beverly Hills, that's just cheap of Han to do this. Stephanie, you're on the John and Ken Show. Go ahead.
Hi, John. Well, you already mentioned it, but I was going to say this movie is on TV all the time. There's a cable channel in L.A. that is showing war movies all week long as a tribute to the veterans. I mean, are we supposed to get offended? Every little group that might be mentioned somewhere, like the Czechs, or my husband made me watch Force 10 from Navarone last night, and they had a lot of different ethnic groups. I mean, my God, where does it stop? It's just a little too much.
The politically correct fanatics are seizing on ever more trivial events to complain about. They need to somehow keep themselves in business and in the limelight, and they need to complain about something. So now we're down to historical movies from 60 years ago. And what's funny is none of these groups complain about the content of the movie, do they? Well, there are no groups. What am I talking about? Nakano.
That's it.
I mean, the content of the movie was in part made by the Japanese. So what?
Oh, yeah, here's the story on Mayor Hahn invites business leaders on tour of Asia. Yeah, I guess they did just leave.
Many of whom contributed tens of thousands of dollars to his anti-secession campaign. Look at that.
So you wonder if, you may be onto something here, Bob. It may be that Janice and James Hahn together said, well, we can't let this December 7th event go on when we're going to take a trip to Asia.
There you go.
Well, wait a second.
At one stop in Tokyo, Hahn will be accompanied by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dodgers pitcher
Kazashi.
Yeah.
I wonder what Arnold would think of this.
Well, he's running for governor now.
Well, we thank you for coming on, Bob. And, if we find out if somebody can help you out with a theater, we'll let you know.
Hey, I appreciate it, and so does the museum.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bob Mays, volunteer with
the firms represented on the trip contributed at least $333,000 to the mayor's anti-secession campaign. Well, he knows if he lost the Valley, he'd never get reelected, because I think that's where there's at least some support.
He's such a dud.
For the white mayor to be reelected.
He's just a dud. All right. Anyway, that's the Fort MacArthur Military Museum. If you think you can help them out with a site to run this old movie and help them
somewhere
with
near the South Bay so they don't have to go like hundreds of...
Give him an earful for sticking his snout into this. It's none of his business. Go back to damaging the rest of the state. Stop ruining some museum's little fundraiser.